President Trump slammed New York Mayor Bill de Blasio for the recent attacks on the city's police officers. Ilhan Omar and the rest of the squad are making a weird comparison when it comes to Israel. Google suspends yet another whistleblower, and Robert Mueller takes a phone call on a banana phone. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, happy Friday and welcome to the show. It's our last show here. I'll be back in my home studio on Monday, and I can't wait. But let's dive in. First of all, I don't know if you've seen these videos that have surfaced of these attacks on New York City's police officers, but President Trump sure has noticed, and he's calling out Mayor de Blasio on it big time. You know, de Blasio is one of the million candidates who are running for president on the Democrat side. He's too busy looking after his city. And in the meantime, there's just total chaos. And if you haven't seen the clips, here's a quick video.
Police say the 28-year-old with gang ties is now in custody at the 7-3 precinct in Brooklyn, turned himself in after this and other similar videos surfaced. Union reps today saying the footage made them feel, quote, completely disgusted.
All right, so see, that's just insane what's going on. The police officers did nothing to retaliate, and that's the part that really surprised me. I mean, you see one guy get wailed on by the bucket, and they just go about their business. In both incidents, they were actually in the process of making arrests. There's been a criminal violation. They were talking to the bad guys and making arrests, and these gang members and other losers come in and do this to them. So here's what President Trump tweeted yesterday. He says, "We love our law enforcement officers all around this great country. What took place in New York City with water being tossed on NYPD officers was a total disgrace. It's time for New York Mayor Bill de Blasio to stand up for those who protect our lives and serve us well." So he's absolutely right. And then the president also added this. He said, "What took place was completely unacceptable and will not be tolerated. Bill de Blasio should act immediately." So my question is, what is going on? Because we see that incident, and de Blasio obviously should be held accountable, but there's a lot of bad stuff going on in this country recently. And I don't know if you've seen them. I want to go over some of these with you because it really paints a bad picture of where society is going, and we need to do something about it. I mean, just the other day in Washington, D.C., a man was walking back to his hotel room at night, and he was attacked by 14 thugs. 14. These are boys and girls, juveniles, and he walks up to the lobby area, and he's punched and then just goes down, and then they start attacking him. And the video is out there, and I'd show it. I'd even show you a clip, but I'm sure I'd get nuked by YouTube because it is just so disturbing. Here's a picture. Let me put this up so you can see this gang descending on these folks. And I mean, it was just so sad to watch. I mean, when they're done, when they decide to disperse because I guess they felt the heat might be coming, you know, there's one girl that goes and kicks the guy in the head as he's down and spits on him. And I mean, what is going on? And that's just one incident. Here's more from Fox News. It says, "The incident was another in a spat of recent assaults caught on video involving teenagers. In California, a group of 4 to 5 teens beat a couple who were taking out the trash just before midnight on Sunday. Meanwhile, Chicago police said Thursday that they had arrested 3 juvenile girls aged 13, 14, and 15 accused of assaulting a 15-year-old special needs girl." So again, I mean, you've got cops getting doused. You've got people getting beat up while they're on vacation, people getting beat up outside their home, taking out the trash. And it's just a bad, bad pattern, and something needs to be done about it. Someone needs to say that we need to change this culture and figure out what's going on. So next, I want to talk to you about the squad because there's always something new. But for this segment, I want you to picture a Republican. Just any Republican you want. Doesn't matter who it is. And if you really want to up the game, then yeah, go ahead and picture President Trump or someone like that. And just picture them saying what Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez say almost every day. And in this case, I want to talk about Israel because there was a resolution on the floor of the House this week that talked about basically supporting Israel. There is this movement, this BDS movement, which means boycott, divest, and sanction Israel. And what the resolution in the House was that was debated on was a resolution basically denouncing that movement, basically showing support for Israel. And Rashida Tlaib spoke out against that resolution, and here is what she said.
Americans boycotted Nazi Germany in response to dehumanization, imprisonment, and genocide of Jewish people. In the 1980s, many of us in this very body boycotted South African goods in the fight against apartheid. Our right to free speech is being threatened with this resolution.
All right, first of all, she's got it all wrong, and she's talking in hyperbole to try and stir things up. No one's free speech is going to be infringed on with this resolution. It's a resolution, for one thing. It displays or shows the sense of the House, what they're thinking, what they'd like to happen. But it's a resolution. It is not legislation. And then for her to throw in Nazi Germany in her reference when she's talking about Israel as if Israel's actions are somehow comparable to what went on in Nazi Germany. It's just absolutely stunning, and yet she says it. And here's more from Tlaib.
I stand before you, the daughter of Palestinian immigrants, parents who experience being stripped of their human rights, the right to freedom of travel, equal treatment. So I can't stand by and watch this attack on our freedom of speech and the right to boycott the racist policies of the government and the state of Israel.
All right, so there's Rashida Tlaib, but the squad isn't called the squad for nothing because they tend to act like this one unit of, weirdness, left-wing lunacy. And so, of course, with Tlaib going, Ilhan Omar had to get into the mix with her own resolution. She proposed her own resolution to blast Israel, not just come out against the one that they are debating that supports Israel. She came out with her own that actually blasts Israel. And here's a report from Fox News. It says, days earlier, Representative Ilhan Omar, Democrat from Minnesota, introduced a resolution of her own that subtly supported BDS without specifically mentioning Israel. The resolution also utilized the Nazi Germany comparison. Whereas Americans of conscience have a proud history of participating in boycotts to advocate for human rights abroad, including boycotting Nazi Germany from March 1933 to October 1941 in response to the dehumanization of the Jewish people in the lead up to the Holocaust, the resolution said. All right, so we've seen this Nazi reference now by Ilhan Omar. We've seen it by Rashida Tlaib. We've seen it by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez when she talks about the ICE detention centers as concentration camps. So what is going on? Can you imagine if the other side were using these kind of references? The media they'd perk up like that, and they'd find a way to go after them for even mentioning Nazi Germany. And yet now we have Nazi Germany being compared to the actions of Israel. We have ICE detention centers being compared to Auschwitz and places like that. It's just absolutely nuts. And yet this stuff goes unchecked all the time. They just keep talking and talking and talking. And it's got to be driving the Democrat leadership absolutely wild. Nancy Pelosi is going to be meeting with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They're going to have a meeting, and hopefully they'll hammer out some of this stuff because it's absolutely insane. Next, folks, I want to talk to you about Google because another high-ranking Google computer science guy has spoken out about the bias that's going on. He's spoken out against the bias that big tech is doing, this left-wing bias, and big tech in general, and Google in particular. He sat down and spoke with Project Veritas. This is Greg Coppola, and here's what he said.
It's a time to decide, do we run the technology? Does the technology run us? Are we going to continue to have elections that mean anything? Are we going to continue to think for ourselves, or are we going to just let the biggest tech companies decide who wins every election from now on?
All right, and that is the central question. Are we going to let big tech be the ones that determine elections? Not the voters, not concerned citizens, but are we going to let big tech determine the outcome of our next elections. I mean, the Democrats, they're so up in arms about supposed Russia collusion and Russia interference with our elections. What about what's going on right here at home with big technology influencing the major outlets for news and search and everything like that people use? Here's more from Coppola.
You know, I look at search and I look at Google News and I see what it's doing, and I see Google executives go to Congress and say that it's not manipulated, it's not political, and I'm just so sure that's not true.
So this guy believes that something's up, something's not right, and he's not just some Joe Blow, folks. This guy is a senior guy, very well educated, very experienced, and here's some of his background when he really lets you know what he thinks.
I think the big problem that we have today is there's an ambiguity about whether tech is neutral or whether it's biased. And, you know, I think as someone with a PhD in computer science and 5 years of working at one of the world's top computer science companies, I don't see any doubt that it's very politically biased.
So this is a PhD in computer science, worked at Google for 5 years. He's saying this, and guess what happened? Here's a report from the Daily Wire. It says, on Wednesday, Project Veritas released a video interview of a Google senior software engineer coming forward to sound the alarm over the impact of political bias at the search engine giant. Within a few hours, Google placed the engineer on administrative leave. As the Daily Wire reported Wednesday, Coppola, a senior software engineer in the Google Assistant division, agreed to go on record with the conservative organization Project Veritas to warn against the political bias he sees as built into Google's algorithms. In a statement to the Daily Wire, Project Veritas founder James O'Keefe described the moment as more evidence that the dam has broken on the issue of big tech bias. So, again, this is an issue as a tech person that's very important to me. We see it happening all the time. We see problems that I have with almost every video I post on YouTube, and it's getting worse and worse. And when people speak out, you see what happens. So we're going to keep an eye on that. And finally, folks, I want to just give a few thoughts, a few wrap-ups on the Mueller testimony. That was happening actually as we were doing the show on Wednesday, so we didn't get to report on it, and there's been plenty of awesome reporting, and I invite you to go check that out. But I want to give a few of my thoughts before we wrap up. First of all, the Democrats showed how out there they are. They were not prepared. They were not ready. For 2 years, they thought the Mueller report, the Mueller investigation was going to sink Trump, and it didn't. So now they're gearing up and talking about impeachment and everything, gearing up for these hearings, and they just completely fell flat. They completely just fell on their faces, and it just shows that they weren't ready. Secondly, it shows that Robert Mueller was not in command of what was going on. He was, I mean, if you watched it, he didn't seem like he was there. He didn't seem like he knew what was going on. He had no grasp of his own report. It didn't even look like he was involved in the investigation. His name is on the report, but it is clear that other people were running the show. And that's the thing that is really scary. It's like the deep state, those people, those subordinates, they ran the show. They were out to get Trump. And they pushed this investigation costing millions and millions of dollars, and Robert Mueller seemed absolutely clueless. He did not seem like he knew what was going on. He did not seem like he knew what was there. And the Babylon Bee actually reported it this way. I'll put up their headline on the screen right here. It says, "I'm still sharp as a tack," insists Mueller moments before taking a phone call on a banana phone. Now, folks, I don't want to criticize banana phones because I don't necessarily think that's a sign of weirdness or getting nutty or anything like that. I think it's more of a personal choice, but I'll just leave it at that. Folks, that's our show for today. Please subscribe. Please tell your friends. Oh, sorry. Folks, I need to take this, but again, please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell, and I'll see you on Monday. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, just a little reminder before you go, and no, this does not count against my 13 minutes. Please hit the subscribe button below and tell your friends. And if you happen to miss our last show, you can check it out right here. And also for great conservative news and commentary, please check out GOPUSA.com. All right, folks, we'll see you on the next show. Have a great day.